Well, hello everybody, and thank you for being back with me again today. Go ahead and get a Bible, if you will, and we'll be in the 114th Psalm today. Psalm 114, still in a section known as the Great Hallel, a section of hallelujahs. Again, a group of psalms that were sung around the festivals and feast of the Jews. The 114th Psalm, the same way it was sung right before the Passover meal would begin. And you can, as you look at the psalm, you'll see the language, and you will again see the connection. We don't know the author. We don't know when it was written, but it is obvious that it was, well, it's obvious, it appears that it was written particularly for the Passover. And again, just to remind you, the Passover was a very important feast for the Jews. It really was almost like it was like our July the 4th, more or less. It was a celebration of their birthday and the celebrating of the Passover as the death angel passed over. And during their bondage in Egypt, and passed over the houses that had the lamb's blood on the doorpost. And so it was a very, again, important song for them, because the Passover, that final event in the plagues on Egypt, was the one that finally spurred Pharaoh to let the people go. And so the Passover was a very important feast. And this song, again, as you'll see, well, you see right out when Israel went out of Egypt. It's the first words in the psalm. And so we can very easily see the theme of the psalm. And this psalm is one that, for you and I, as for the Jews, reminded them of the presence of God, that they could always depend on God, no matter the circumstance, that He was reliable, and that they could depend on Him. And again, if this psalm, and for example, different groups at different times. You can imagine, for example, the Jews during the Holocaust, that this psalm would have been a comfort to them, been an encouragement as they look back and they remembered how God had protected their ancestors and how they could depend on Him. And so this psalm is really about the presence and the power of God, and it's really again a beautiful, beautiful little psalm, just 8 verses long. But again, it just reminds us of that truth of the presence of God. And I've already touched on the first few words, and so as we start into the psalm, you see the first verse, when Israel went out of Egypt, the house of Jacob from a people of strange language. And so, again, we can quickly pick up on what was on the mind, the heart of the psalmist, and that was a remembrance of God's deliverance, God's working to bring the people out of Egypt and to deliver them. And this is this was their this when people today say, I remember the good old days. This was what Israel thought of when they thought of the good old days, was the deliverance of their people from Egypt. It's pretty much for them the highlight of their history. Again, among many things, and I guess we could argue that, but I'm pretty comfortable saying that this is the highlight for Israel of their history. Again, one of the ways we can see that truth again is just to simply go through the Psalms and see how many of our Psalms were around or connected to that event and celebrated the deliverance of God's people. And so that was the way that the Israelites would find comfort and encouragement when they were going through hard times. For example, a week or so ago, 2 weeks ago now, I guess, we were talking about the Israelites coming back from Babylon and coming back to a destroyed city, a city in ruins, and trying to figure out what we're going to do next, how we're going to rebuild our city, our nation, our walls, our buildings, our homes. And this would again have probably been a psalm they would have sung, that they would have looked at. It would have reminded them again. They would have looked back to this event where God had delivered them and brought them out of that Egyptian bondage. And so again, that the whole idea of their deliverance was something that was very important to them. It was a real again reminder of the faithfulness of God and their special relationship with God and His special relationship with them and the promises that He had made to the people. And so this again, the whole idea was something that encouraged them, and it's. I think the lesson for us today is that we need. One of the things that you see that they did a lot in the Old Testament was they would build memorials. Sometimes it would just be a pile of rocks, but they would build a memorial to events in their life. They would name places after special events in their life. They would name their children after special things that God had done in their life. And so, again, they had a lot of memorials that they looked back on, a lot of things that they would, again, when they would call their child's name or go to a certain city, the names of those places were, again, a reminder to them of the deliverance or the power, whatever event was connected. And I don't know how each of us need to do that. Again, I'm not suggesting you go out and pile up a bunch of rocks and give it a name. But I do think that we need a better memory. I do think we need some points in our life where we look back and remember those particular events and kind of anchor them. For some people, that may be journaling or keeping a diary, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, I don't know how I guess all of us are a little different, but I do think one of the greatest things we could do would be to to look back, to have those moments that we look back to. Maybe it's our salvation as God, as the Holy Spirit did. Maybe it's that day, that time when God was speaking to your heart. Maybe it's maybe a time when God healed you physically, or got you out of a financial bind, or saved one of your children. Those events, those times when God really showed up in a particular magnificent, an undeniable way, that we know, listen, that was God. That there's no question in my mind that God stepped in at that point. That we have a better memory of those things. And I think that does two things for us, probably more, but I'm gonna name two. One is certainly that should then cause us to erupt in praise as we look back and we think about those moments, think about those times, and what He has done and how He has delivered and how He has provided. Then that should cause us to sing. Cause us to have a word of praise on our lips. But then the other thing that comes from that is just like what we've been talking about here with the Israelites, that as we face these things, as we face adversity in our life, as we go through challenges, discouraging times, we're able to look back and say, my God has always been faithful. My God has always been good. He has always, never has He failed me. And I can depend on Him today as well. And so I hope you'll work on that. Again, I don't know how to tell you to do it because all of us are different. Again, I've told you before, I'm not a journaler. Maybe you are. But just to work on our memory. And I know as we get older, that's hard to do too. But that we work on remembering those things, those times when God, recalling those things, when God has stepped in undeniably and rescued us and blessed us. And I believe those memories will help change our outlook as we go forward. All right, have a great day, and we'll see you back here tomorrow morning.